What made me join the Australian Defence Force? I always knew I would join the Army. My dad served 40 years in the Australian Army, so I was brought up as a military brat, moving from town to town and even country to country following my dad's service. And I saw the Army as a really honourable trade, something that you could belong to that was bigger than yourself. So for me, it was always very clear, even from a very young age, that I was going to join the Army. So I did that as soon as I could, straight out of school. How long did I train? I was in the Army for 17 years. I joined initially as an infantryman, as a soldier, private, and went through Kapuka and basic training to become a rifleman. So I was a rifleman in the infantry for 6 years, and then was picked up or identified for training as an officer. They said I had some of the qualities they'd like to see if I could lead people. So I was taken to the Royal Military College at Duntroon, where I did 18 months in service there, training to be an officer to lead soldiers. From there, I transferred from Infantry Corps to the Royal Australian Engineers. So when I was in the infantry, I did some specialised training. I loved blowing stuff up. And they had a specialised course called Assault Pioneers, which is where you learnt about explosives, you learnt how to use explosives to both destroy and create things. And that was really where my love of everything explosive or bombs started. So when I had an opportunity to choose a corps, which is really your employment pathway as an officer, I chose the engineers because they had a whole bomb disposal section called EOD, or Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Yeah, stress is an amazing thing. What effect did stress have on me in diffusing a bomb? I used to be able to pretty much compartmentalise my stress. So when we go out on an operation, I'd sort of psych myself up beforehand, be excited, the adrenaline's going, I'm like, yes, let's go and do this. I remember the very first IED I went downrange on. I was very nervous. I thought, this is it. All your training's got to kick in. You've got to do it right. If you stuff it up, you'll be going home in a body bag. So there was a lot of pressure, and I remember feeling that stress. But I remember getting to a point, as soon as I'd start my job, I'd be very focused. I'd almost block out sound and everything else from around me and just sort of a tunnel vision focus on what I was doing. Every action has a reaction. So I would think through what I was about to do mentally, walk through the process of doing it before I'd even physically do something. And that was a really good process that I think kept me alive. Stress would always come in waves after. So I'd often get back to a safe area where we'd rendered safe the device or blown it up in place, and I'd feel like this full release of, oh my gosh, I'm glad that's over. How do we deal with it? Well, I ended up smoking cigarettes and joking with my friends and having a laugh, often a bit of black humour about what we were doing, because we wanted to kind of remove the seriousness of it. And so humour was a really good way of dealing with stress in a warlike environment. The hardest part of leaving to go to war was leaving my family. Every time it was harder as well. I would see the impact it was having on my wife and my kids, my extended absence, and I think the pressure of knowing that I might not come home was placing a big burden on them, and I felt that every time I left. So definitely the hardest part about going was leaving